Look at these images very carefully. Mediterranean Sea. Between the coast of Spain and North Africa, an oil tanker sails through the waters. Music. But what the crew of this ship doesn't know is that French military helicopters are approaching quickly. What is about to happen in the next few minutes will cut off one of the main financial arteries of Vladimir Putin's war. French Navy commandos begin to descend by ropes from NH-90 helicopters fully armed and equipped. Goodbye. They land on the structure of the moving ship, and the crew is completely taken by surprise. Within minutes, the French commandos take full control of the oil tanker. The captain, a 58-year-old Indian man, is detained. This ship, called Grinch, is part of a secret fleet of more than 1,400 vessels that keeps the Russian war economy running. This fleet transports 60% of all Russian oil, which escapes international sanctions, and France has just declared war on this fleet. This operation took place on January 22, 2026. But if you think capturing this ship was impressive, this is just the first blow that France dealt to Russia. Because at the same time that French commandos were raiding the Grinch in the Mediterranean, something even bigger was happening in the skies above Ukraine. Something that not even the United States managed to do. Keep watching, because we're going to reveal exactly what France did and why Vladimir Putin now faces a problem that he has no way to solve. To fully understand what France just did, we need to go back a bit and explain what this Russian shadow fleet is and why it's so important for the war. When Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, the West imposed the harshest economic sanctions in modern history. The United States, the United Kingdom, and the European Union banned the purchase of Russian oil above $60 per barrel. More importantly, they also banned Western companies from providing shipping and insurance services.
Para esse petróleo.
In theory, this should have strangled the Russian economy, but Vladimir Putin found a solution. He started buying old ships from all over the world, ships that no reputable company would operate. Oil tankers that are 20, 25, sometimes 30 years old, ships that technically should already be retired. That's how the shadow fleet began. These ships operate in a way that would be impossible for normal commercial ships. They turn off their tracking systems to disappear from international radars. They frequently change flags and register in countries with minimal regulations, such as Uros, Gabon, Barbados, and Liberia, places where the authorities ask few questions. And they sail without proper insurance, creating massive environmental risks. If one of these ships sinks with millions of liters of oil, there's no reliable insurer to pay for the damages. Grinch is the perfect example. Built in 2004, the ship is 22 years old. It changed its name and flag 5 times in the last 4 years. Before July 2022, it was called Cal. The ship was registered in Comoros, a small island country off the coast of Africa that most people wouldn't be able to locate on a map. Comoros. It's what's known as a flag of convenience, a country where you can register a ship without facing strict inspections. When the French commandos searched through the ship's documentation, they discovered that even that dubious registration was fake. The ship was sailing under a fraudulent flag. This is critical from a legal standpoint under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Ships on the high seas are normally protected by the country where they are registered, but if a ship is using a false flag, it effectively becomes stateless. And ships without a country can be boarded and seized by any naval force that encounters them. That's what France did. Grinch had departed from the port of Murmansk in Russia's Arctic region, carrying crude oil. He sailed through the North Atlantic, passed through the Strait of Gibraltar and entered the Mediterranean, but France did not act alone. The United Kingdom provided crucial support. A small vessel of the British Royal Navy, Her Majesty's ship Dagger, began to follow Grinch as soon as he entered the Strait of Gibraltar. Her Majesty's ship Dagger is an impressive ship. At only 19 meters long, it is powered by water jet engines, which allow it to reach speeds of 41 knots, equivalent to 76 km/h on water. It was specially designed for surveillance operations in narrow waters. Based on the Rock of Gibraltar, Her Majesty's ship Dagger tracked every movement of Grinch, photographed the ship, recorded its speed, its course, and its position in the water. This data was shared with France, which set up the interception operation. When Grinch was in the middle of the Alboran Sea between Spain and Morocco, French helicopters attacked. After the capture, the ship was diverted to the port near Marseille, where it remains to this day, while French authorities conduct a judicial investigation. This cooperation between France and the United Kingdom is not accidental. It is part of a coordinated strategy to destroy the Russian shadow fleet through physical attacks on the vessels. And Grinch was not the only recent target. Just a few days earlier, the United States captured another ship from the shadow fleet in an even more dramatic operation. The ship, originally called Bella, one had been detected transporting oil between Russia and Venezuela when American forces tried to intercept it. The crew did something extraordinary in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. They painted over the name Bella One and renamed the ship Marinera, changed the flag from Guyana to Russia, and kept fleeing. The ship traveled hundreds of miles. While being chased, it turned off its tracking system 17 times to try to evade its pursuers. It had 379 suspicious encounters with other vessels, and in an unprecedented move, the Russian government granted the ship a provisional registration in the middle of its escape, trying to protect it. But the United States didn't give up. With British logistical support, including the use of bases, refueling ships, and surveillance aircraft, American forces finally intercepted the Marinera, Scotland, and Iceland. The ship was captured, its captain was detained. Reports indicate that Russia even sent a submarine to try to escort the ship, but it was in vain. The capture of Grinch and Marinera sends a clear message: the Shadow Fleet is no longer invisible, no longer untouchable. Each captured ship increases the insurance cost, raises the risk for the crews, and increases the discounts Putin needs to offer to find buyers willing to take the risk. This fleet transports 60% of Russian seaborne oil. It includes, according to conservative estimates, about 1,400 ships. Of these, 921 are subject to sanctions by at least one of the three major Western blocs. Putin spent $14 billion building this network, and now it's under direct attack. But Putin thought this fleet was invisible. He was wrong, and that's just the first problem he's facing. Because while France was attacking the Shadow Fleet in the Mediterranean, something much more devastating was happening hundreds of kilometers above Ukraine. On January 15, 2026, the French President Emmanuel Macron made a surprising announcement during a speech to the French armed forces. He revealed that France now provides 2/3 of all the military intelligence that Ukraine uses to identify and attack Russian targets. 2/3. This means that France has surpassed the United States as the main provider of intelligence information to Kyiv. And do you want to know how this was possible? Well, the answer is in space. France has built over 2 decades a constellation of spy satellites that rivals any system in the world. And now these satellites are entirely focused on the conflict in Ukraine. The main system is called CSO. It's made up of 3 satellites, each with a specific function. The first one flies at an altitude of 800 kilometers and provides an overview of the battlefield. Its cameras capture images with a resolution of 35 centimeters per pixel, which means it can identify concentrations of armored vehicles, artillery positions, and ammunition depots. It's the Strategic Reconnaissance Satellite. The second satellite is even more impressive. It flies much lower, at just 480 kilometers of altitude. This proximity allows for extraordinary resolution, 18 centimeters per pixel. With this clarity, analysts can identify not only that there is a tank in a certain position, but also the exact model of the tank. They can see identification marks, and they can distinguish between real equipment and inflatable fake tanks that Russia uses to deceive attacks. The problem with flying so low is that there are still traces of Earth's atmosphere at that altitude. The satellite undergoes continuous wear and tear. Its lifespan is estimated at only 10 years. It was launched in 2020, so it will need to be replaced in 2030. But as long as it is operational, it is a devastating tool of war. The third satellite flies at the same altitude as the first, but in a different position. Its function is to constantly update the images. If the first satellite passes over an area and captures an image, the third passes over the same area a few hours later and updates it. All this ensures that Ukraine has information that is no more than 12 hours old. In a war where missile launchers and artillery batteries are constantly changing positions, this update frequency is crucial. The mirrors of these satellites are made of a special material called zero-dur, a glass that does not deform. With the brutal temperature changes in space, satellites go from over 120 degrees Celsius under direct sunlight to less than minus 150 degrees in the Earth's shadow. This cycle happens every 90 minutes. A regular mirror would distort and ruin the accuracy of the images, but the zero-dur remains perfectly stable, ensuring that each photo has the sharpness needed to identify military targets. But France doesn't rely only on satellites that take pictures. It also operates another system called Ceres. There are 3 satellites flying in a triangular formation at an altitude of 700 kilometers. These satellites detect radio signals, not take pictures. When a Russian radar is turned on, it emits a characteristic signal. The 3 satellites detect this signal and use the difference in arrival time to calculate the exact location of the radar. With this, Ukraine knows exactly where the Russian air defense systems are, even if they are camouflaged or hidden. And that's when Putin found out he had a much bigger problem than he thought. The combination of these systems created a devastatingly efficient intelligence cycle. In January 2026, Ukraine launched a 48-hour airstrike campaign that destroyed billions of dollars in Russian equipment. Targets included S-400 and S-300 systems. Russia's most advanced air defense systems included radars specifically designed to detect drones and low-flying missiles. They included long-range early warning systems, and they included the defense that protects all the other systems. This attack is part of a larger campaign. Over the past year, using precision intelligence like this, Ukraine has managed to destroy about $4 billion worth of Russian air defense systems. But after all, how is this possible? Well, because French intelligence provided every coordinate, every position update, every target confirmation. The satellites that detect signals would identify when a radar was turned on. The high-resolution satellite would visually confirm the position and check that it wasn't a false target. Ukraine would launch the attack, and hours later, another satellite would pass over the area and confirm the destruction. This kind of warfare guided by space intelligence is something that even the United States has difficulty executing with such consistent precision. And there's a detail that few people talk about regarding France, but it has become more reliable than the United States for Ukraine. and this happens mainly because of American policy. When Donald Trump returned to the presidency in 2025, the relationship between the United States and Ukraine became extremely unstable. In March 2025, after a disastrous meeting between Trump and the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, the United States paused intelligence sharing with Ukraine.
You should thank the President for addressing this conflict.
Did you visit Ukraine and discuss our problems?
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know that what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President.
Access was restored, but Trump threatened to cut it again if Ukraine did not accept a peace plan that would involve giving up significant territory to Russia. For Ukraine, this instability was unacceptable. It's not possible to fight a war when you don't know if you'll have access to the intelligence data you need to plan operations. The following week, France, on the other hand, offered stability. Emmanuel Macron made it clear that French support is not conditioned on peace negotiations. It's not subject to political changes. It's a matter of strategic European security. This represents a fundamental shift in the balance of power. For the first time since World War II, Europe has demonstrated the ability to sustain high-intensity military operations without relying entirely on the United States. France has proven that its space systems, developed independently over decades, can provide intelligence on the same level as American systems, and that completely changes Putin's strategic calculus. He always believed that he could eventually divide the Western alliance, that he could manipulate the United States through negotiations, that European support for Ukraine depended on American support. But France just proved that this isn't true, even if the United States steps away completely. Europe has the means to continue providing Ukraine with the necessary tools to defend its territory. The capture of Grinch and the dominance of space intelligence are two blows that Putin didn't expect, and now he faces a problem that has no easy solution. His shadow fleet is under a physical attack, his forces in Ukraine are being tracked by satellites that he can't take down, and the alliance he hoped to fragment is getting stronger. For Vladimir Putin, France has become the problem he can't solve. And do you think other countries will start capturing ships from the Russian shadow fleet? Who do you think will be the next to act? Leave your opinion in the comments. If you found this content interesting, share it with someone who needs to know about this story and subscribe to the channel to follow more analyses like this. See you next time.